Hi guys, someone from the team, can you check the audio? Is the audio working? Just a quick check. Great, thanks Janam. Good evening guys. Good evening to everyone who's joined in. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes or we'll just wait. Let the others join in. Good evening Kaushiva. Good evening Shavni. Utsav, Ranjana. Good evening everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Everyone's fit, fine and healthy. Hi Kushi. Good evening, good evening, everyone. Great to see all of you here. We'll just wait for like another 2 minutes. It's not 7 yet, so we've got a minute or so. Till that time, you can just tell me quickly which part of India are you joining in from? Great, Lucknow, Hyderabad, Delhi, south of India. Great, guys. You guys will have, I think, the team will share with you the schedules very soon. You'll have all the details when would which particular classes be held. So the admin team would help you out with that. Great, we've got someone from Chandigarh as well, my city. Great guys, great to have all of you here. So it's 7 o'clock. That was our scheduled time for starting. So let's get started with this particular session, right? Great guys, I'll just quickly introduce myself first. So in this particular case, who am I? We get started with that. So my first description is a very simple one. I am a fat bald man. That is who I am by the looks of it. But other than that, I am Prashant. I have been training students for the last 17 years now. I have taken the CAT exam quite a few times. And in fact, I just saw the thumbnail for this session and it was like 8 times CAT 99 VARC percentiler. So that has changed now to 9 times. So I think from next time onwards, we are going to update that as well. So I keep taking the exam. Whatever insights I've learned from taking the exam, from preparing content, and I prepared a lot of content extensively for this exam. I have been training students for the last 17 years. So I'm simply here to share that experience with you guys, take you through a journey. I generally like to keep all my sessions, I like to conduct them in a way in which it is a conversation. You guys are not in front of me. From the corner of my eye, I've got a screen put up in front of me where I'm reading the comments as well to the best of my ability. I might miss out the odd comment, so apologies in advance for the same, right? So I'll try to answer as many of the questions as I can. There's this question that are you taking the batches, are you taking the classes? It's a team effort, it's not any one individual. All I have to say is I have been with iQUANTA for more than a year now, and I'm like deeply involved in a lot of content work as well. So you guys will see me right through the year in different capacities, right? I am based out of Chandigarh, guys. I have, barring just a quick introduction about myself, since people are joining in, so we'll start the slides at we'll start the slides at 7:05. So I've been based in Chandigarh for most of my life, barring a couple of years. I love the city so intensely, such a nice, comfortable place to live. So that is what brief description about me, who I am, and what is it that I do. I'll try to make your lives a little easier, and we'll try to have a conversation here. Let's see what all can we cover today. How much can we discuss? What kind of interesting questions you've got for me, right? And I would love to answer all of those and take you through the whole process, right? Oh, so another curious question, is this a demo class? No, it's just a class, right? At the end of the day, a faculty, my inherent or my deep desire is that the message should reach out to as many people as possible through our courses, through YouTube sessions. So that is all a faculty is trying to do. It's trying to make sure that his message reaches out to the widest possible audience. So that is what the attempt here, that is what the attempt is, right? So that is what this is about. Am I visible to everyone? Right? The camera is working, right? The slides are visible. That's actually pretty strange. Just give me like a minute or so to fix this, because I just saw that I am audible, right? Just let me so I'm audible, but the screen is frozen, if I'm not mistaken, right? That is what the issue is. Just give me a second, guys.
आपके द्वारा डायल किया गया नंबर अभी व्यस्त है या इस समय
Guys, can you check now? Am I visible? Great, guys. I had just the screen, the comments on, so I did not realize that I was not visible, right? Great, guys. Thank you very much for telling me. I think someone recommended change the scene, right? So that worked. Thank you so much. Thanks for the help, guys. Great, guys. So let's get started now. We've unfortunately started with a technical glitch, right? So let's get started and let's have the 5 hacks to kickstart your prep. We'll focus on 5 small little hacks, small little things, right, that you guys can use to improve your prep. So guys, the audio, can you guys just confirm the audio, the video, everything is good to go? Then we can get started. Absolutely, yeah, Tekla. I've heard that all my life. Tekla, Shakal, even Biprak. So I take these all as synonyms for my name. Right? Great, guys. We are good to go. Finally, at last, we can get started. Just a kind request, all questions related to the team, the courses, etc., those should be directed to the iQUANTA team. We'll focus on 5 hacks to kickstart your VARC prep. That is something that we'll be doing. I've got 5 interesting things that you guys can use. 5 small little 5 little hacks, small little things, just a few things that you guys can use to improve your VARC prep, right? So as I said earlier, these small little things are going to help you improve your preparation. Arey, those sorry mat bole bhai. Completely chill. I'm like completely, more than anything else, I love myself as well. So completely comfortable in my skin. So we'll get started, right? And we'll get started with the first hack that you guys can use to improve your VARC prep, right? What is it that you guys can do to perfect your prep, right? Just one quick question from my side, right? How many of you took CAT 2024? How many of you took CAT 2024? How many of you took CAT 2024? Any one of you who took the exam in CAT 2024, you'll be taking it again this year. Great. So we've got a couple of people who have. Anyone who took it in 23 or 24, right? So either of those years, right? The first thing or the first hack that I'm going to recommend today for you guys is a very simple one. It's kind of a little counterintuitive as well, because some of you might say that why am I recommending this? So I'll explain as well that why is it that you should be doing it, right? The first thing is, and that I would recommend, and I will recommend this very, very strongly to you guys, right? That guys, take, for example, this coming Sunday, right? And the next Sunday, right? These 2 Sundays, just do one little exercise if you can do it for me, right? From CAT 2023, one of the 3 slots, right? And CAT 2024, one of the 3 slots. From one exam from each of these years, one particular paper from each of these years, you guys should attempt it as a section test, right? Irrespective of the scores that you get, right? So this is like crazy advice to start your VARC prep, right? What I'm telling you to do is to go and take one of the slots. So even if you've taken CAT 2024, right? If you took slot 3, attempt the slot 2 VARC section and take one from CAT 2023, right? Now what that is going to do is that, and do it in a very relaxed manner, 40 minutes, give it to the section. But at the end of it, there is one thing that is going to happen, right? At the end of it, you will know what the exam is about. What is it that is asked in it, right? The one thing that you should not do is you should not take my word for it, right? So if I tell you इस type का content आता है, ऐसी चीज़ें आती हैं, इस type का reading material पढ़ना चाहिए, ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए, तुम क्यों बात मानोगे भाई? मैं तो एक एक्सटर्नल आदमी हूँ, क्यों बात मानोगे मेरी, है ना? कि तुम्हारे पास मतलब what is your motivation to trust my word for it, right? Just because I'm saying so you should go and follow that blindly? ना भाई, मत करो वो, ठीक है? एक सिंपल काम करना है, 40 मिनट इस संडे करना है, ठीक है? 40 मिनट अगले संडे करना है, ठीक है? और तुम्हारे को क्या करना है, ठीक है? 2 पेपर सॉल्व करने हैं, ठीक है? एट द एंड ऑफ इट एनालाइज योर मिस्टेक्स, राइट? ज़्यादा डीप एनालिसिस भी मत करो, कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है स्टेज पे इतना डीप एनालिसिस करने की, राइट? बट व्हाट डू यू डू इज यू आइडेंटिफाई द काइंड ऑफ कंटेंट विच हैज फीचर्ड इन द एग्जाम. एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन आप कर सकते हो, राइट? एक छोटा सा सवाल अपने आप को पूछ सकते हो आरसी पेपर करने के बाद. सो यू विल हैव 4 आरसीज इन ईच ऑफ दो स्लॉट्स, राइट? अपने आप को पूछना है यार, क्या मैं कंफर्टेबल था इस आरसी को पढ़ने में? क्या मुझे ये पढ़ने में अच्छा लगा? क्या मुझे पढ़ने में इरिटेटिंग लगा? कैन यू आस्क दीज काइंड्स ऑफ क्वेश्चंस टू योरसेल्फ, राइट? So now what is going to happen when you do this? At the end of it, you will know, right, what are the different types of questions, what is the level of the language which is probed in the examination. So you will have answers to all these questions, and the reference point, the baseline, the data is your actual data, right? That is something that you require, right? गाइज नॉट इग्नोरिंग द कॉमेंट्स, बट बहुत सारे कॉमेंट है जो इससे रिलेटेड नहीं है, राइट? सो आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू फोकस ऑन what is it that I have to teach and what is it that I have to communicate to you guys. So that is something that I'm focusing on. So काफ़ी सारे comments I'm not even able to follow, right? तो फ्लो में फटाफट कंप्लीट करते हैं, फिर तुम्हारे जो सवाल होंगे यार एक एक करके आई ट्राई टू आंसर दोज एज वेल. सो पहला काम तो ये पहली सी एक चीज़ है, ये एक हैक से ज़्यादा तुम लोगों के लिए एक एक्सरसाइज है, एक काम है जो तुम करोगे. अपना 2 स्लॉट करोगे, आइडेंटिफाई करोगे, उनमें बेसिकली पैटर्न्स, नेचर ऑफ कंटेंट, क्या आता है उसको, क्या स्किल रिक्वायर्ड है और तुम कहाँ पे हो, इतना तुम्हें एस्टैब्लिश करना है. दिस इज वॉट यू गॉट टू एस्टैब्लिश, राइट? And that is one particular thing that you do. You've got 3 slots in 23, 3 slots in 2024, right? Out of those 6 slots, take any to establish the baseline. Remember, this is not about the scores that you get, right? This is about the kind of content that features in the exam and for you to have an understanding of it, right? कि ये आता है एग्जाम में. सो ये पहला काम है जो तुम करोगे, ठीक है? सो ये आपका पहला छोटा सा हैक, पहली छोटी सी चीज़ जो तुम करोगे, दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट आई वांट यू गाइस टू इम्प्लीमेंट, ठीक है? सेकेंड चीज़, एक छोटा सा सवाल है, डू यू गाइस फॉलो एनी काइंड ऑफ एंड मतलब इसका जेन्युइन आंसर देना, तुम लोग कोई ऐसा तरीका फॉलो करते हो क्या कि नोट मेकिंग का, या कोई टारगेट सेट करते हो, ठीक है? या हमारे लिए जैसे कि मुझे इतने टाइम में इतना कंटेंट कंज्यूम करना है, इतने टाइम में मुझे इतनी चीज़ें करनी है. डू यू पुट अप सम काइंड ऑफ स्टिकी नोट्स ऑन द वॉल? डू यू डू एनी सच थिंग पढ़ाई को लेके कि भाई ये सब का टाइम ही नहीं है? वैसे काफ़ी बार तो टाइम ही नहीं होता, क्योंकि इतने सारे रील्स देखने होते हैं, इतने सारे शॉर्ट्स देखने होते हैं, और उनमें से आधे तो मोटिवेशन के ही देखने होते हैं. मैं तो खुद भी इसमें गिल्टी हूँ, खुद को इंक्लूड कर रहा हूँ मैं. मोटिवेशन में आधी प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि आधा टाइम आपका वो मोटिवेशनल कंटेंट कंज्यूम करने में ही निकल जाता है, ठीक है? तो वो एक छोटा सा कई बारी दिक्कत हो जाती है. तो एक छोटा सा काम करना है, ठीक है? हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू आर इन द हैबिट ऑफ, राइट, सॉल्विंग 1 RC a day at least, right? How many of you are in this habit of solving 1 RC a day at least? तुम में से कौन कौन लोग करते हैं ये 1 या 2 RCs a day? अगर तुम में से अगर बहुत सारे लोग ये चीज़ अंडरस्टैंड करेंगे, है ना, हम में से बहुत सारे लोग हैं, ये 2-3, मैं तो अपने 17 ईयर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस में ये कंसिस्टेंट कॉमन चीज़ें हैं. जब भी टेस्ट सीरीज़ का टाइम आता है, टेस्ट सीरीज शुरू होती है, तो हर बच्चा, बहुत सारे बच्चे, मोर देन हाफ, राइट, हाफ द स्टूडेंट्स वो बोलते हैं कि हम टेस्ट नेक्स्ट वीक स्टार्ट करेंगे. दे से दैट दे विल स्टार्ट द टेस्ट नेक्स्ट वीक, राइट? Then same with their practice, I'll start doing it next week, right? But if we can just, so all you want to do is, can you put up 7 sticky notes at the start of every week in front of you, right? Have a target of 1 RC daily to get started with, and 5 VA questions. I'm not even saying like 10 VA questions, 25 VA questions a week, right? So that's the second thing that you've got to do for your CAT VRC prep, right? One RC every day, and at least a bare minimum of try to do at least 5 questions 5 times a week, right? So that is as compared to, that is the bare, that's a small, very small little target that you've got to keep, and post this up as sticky notes, right? So I am just sharing on a personal side. I'm like a huge stationery nerd, right? So I buy all kinds of stationery, like all kinds of pens, stationery, just love to collect them and use them as well, right? So the simplest thing for forming habits, which I've always found works, and which is the one thing that works, is putting up these visual markers in front of oneself, right? Very simple little visual markers. So if on these notes, if you can write one RC, 5 questions for VA every day, and keep tearing them down, right? And if by Sunday you've just toned them down, if you've just if you've like kind of done the exercise thrice, that means you've got four sticky notes to complete on your Saturday or Sunday, right? So that's something that you've got to do, even by this very simple standard of like very low bar of 1 RC a day. Just imagine the cumulative prep. So by the time the CAT exam arrives, you would have approximately solved, like accounting for a few days when you don't solve, you would have still solved a minimum of 250 RCs and 1000 VA questions. Now, just trying to invert the lens of analysis for you. If I tell you as of today, right, just today, just inverting the lens once for you, that as of today, you've solved 1000 VA questions and you've solved 250 RCs. As of today, you've done that. Would you be happy? Would you have a certain amount of semblance of happiness? थोड़ी सी खुशी तो होगी. So just a hypothetical scenario. Let's imagine that you have done all this, right? Yeah, you don't have to do it in a single day. Just a scenario, right? Let's suppose we are talking about this 10 months later and you've done this, right? Just a hypothetical scenario, right? So what that is going to do is, it's just going to, if you keep this very simple small target, right, that process of, and in fact a lot of videos on Instagram do a much better job of explaining this, that this is the power of compounding, right, that you have, right? And you have all these reels which say that there's this very popular one that if you improve by 1% every day, you compound it for 365 days, and there's an insane percentage that comes out, right? Similarly, if you solve that 1 RC every day, you would have solved 250 RCs, 1000 VA questions. So for me, I'm sharing, this is purely personal, right? There's no such professional advice here. So for example, if I have a target, right? In fact, there are targets that I have for completing work, right? So I have generally realized that if I don't put a number to it, right, personally, and this might just be me, I'm accepting it, right? If I don't put a number to it, so for example, if I have to create 50 RCs, if I don't put up these numbers visually, or I have these notes in front of me, 50, 45 done, 40 done, 35 done, the kind of motivation to complete that work does not come in, right? So from my own personal experience, this is something that I do. I just put up these notes for myself. This is the work that I need to complete. I break it down for myself that way. And I am extending the same logic to you guys. So put up this sticky note, 1 RC a day, 5 VA questions a day. If you guys can promise me that, right, that you are going to do that, right? So that is something which is going to greatly improve your preparation, right? It's going to significantly enhance your preparation multiple times, right? So that's thing number 2 that you do, right? Thing number 3 that we cover, right? The first 3 things that we are going to cover today are theoretical in nature. So if they are theoretical in nature, that means there is no such exercise, there is no such task for you guys to do, or in other words, like I like to say, so there is a lot of gyan coming your way. So ripping off a popular YouTuber's name. So this is what I call gyan therapy. So there is a lot of gyan therapy happening right now, right? But we'll try to add a couple of things. We'll also solve a couple of very basic questions in the coming slides. So we will add a little small element of practice as well, right? So that's something that we'll do, right? Third thing that we've got to talk about today is that how do you read? How do you diversify your reading habits? What is it that you do for it, right? And how do you go about it? So that's the third thing that we talk about, right? Now, remember the first thing that I suggested you guys, that please the first thing that we spoke about, that you guys will go and take 2 previous year CAT VARC sections. You will solve them, right? From one from 23, one from 24. When you do that, right, there is a thing which is going to happen, right? When you solve those particular exams, you will realize the kind of reading material you need to consume. You will understand that this is what we need to read, this is what we need to get started with, or this is the kind of reading material that we should be consuming, right? So that's something that we should be doing. Now I have a few more suggestions for you, that where is it that you can get started with, and I'll give you a few free sources as well, right, that you guys can read. But before we do that, which is the most cliched which is the most, right now, the most popular source for reading articles related to CAT prep? नहीं यार, इग्नोर नहीं कर रहा यार. आई एम फिर कमेंट्स के लिए मुझे बीच बीच में पॉज करना पड़ेगा भाई. मतलब अगर गौरव बता क्वेश्चन, वेयर विल वी फाइंड ऑल द थिंग्स. शिवाली कुछ, आई विल गिव यू दिस आंसर भी. पलक, स्लॉट्स का बहुत सिंपल है. पिछले 2 साल के पेपर्स में से, ठीक है, एक एक स्लॉट उठा के, है ना, सॉल्व करना है, जस्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड, राइट, जस्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड किस टाइप का कंटेंट आता है एग्जाम में. ठीक है, विल मेक इट इंटरेक्टिव गाइस, बट फिर आई विल टेक पॉजेज, राइट. एक डील कर लेते हैं भाई लोग, ठीक है. आई विल सजेस्ट वेबसाइट्स. दिस पर्टिकुलर स्लाइड शिखर इज ऑल अबाउट वेबसाइट्स. मेरे को फटाफट 3 से 5 मिनट दो स्लाइड का कंटेंट कंप्लीट करने में, पर उसके बाद जो सवाल होने चाहिए, द क्वेश्चन शुड बी रिलेटेड टू दैट पर्टिकुलर स्लाइड, राइट. कैट एग्जाम स्लॉट्स, पलक, डन गाइज. So this way you guys can ask your questions as well, I'll answer those as well, and side by side we can keep discussing the content on the slides as well. I think that way it works best. ठीक है, तो पहला हमारा अभी इस स्लाइड का डिस्कशन पॉइंट, जिसके आसपास ये डिस्कशन रिवॉल्व कर रही है, द थिंग्स दैट विल बी डिस्कसिंग हियर इन दिस पर्टिकुलर स्लाइड. नहीं भाई ऐसे मत बोलो यार. अरे तू तो आदर्श ऐसे बोल रहा है, मैं तेरे को इग्नोर कर रहा हूँ, तो मेरी गर्लफ्रेंड हो भाई. ऐसे मत बोल. क्यों इग्नोर करूंगा मैं? टू बी ऑनेस्ट, मतलब मैं जितने कमेंट पढ़ पा रहा हूँ उतने मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ. ठीक है, लेट मी, एक सेकंड दो, लेट मी पॉप आउट द कमेंट्स. देखता हूँ अगर साइज इंक्रीज होता है फॉन्ट का, है ना. इफ यू गाइज कैन टेल मी द फॉन्ट कैसे इंक्रीज होता है, तो आई माइट बी एबल टू रीड द चैट्स अ लिटिल मोर. That you've got to keep and post this up as sticky notes, right? So I am just sharing on a personal side. I am like a huge Guys, just give me 1 minute. Just trying to increase the comments का size. 1 second दे दो बस मेरे को. एक second guys, I'm just trying to thanks guys, the comments are back up. Thanks for that pop out suggestion, a little more readable as well. Chalo guys, coming back to the reading wala bit, right? Where to find daily VA questions? Guys, lots of practice questions will be there on the iQUANTA course group, batch groups. You'll find all these questions, all where to practice from, everything you'll find in the iQUANTA course. So practice का तो कोई यार मतलब तुम पागल हो जाओगे, कंटेंट नहीं खत्म होगा, ठीक है? तो सबसे ज़्यादा क्लीशेड सोर्स इस वक्त रीडिंग का, द वन विच इज टॉक्ड अबाउट मोस्ट इज, आई थिंक नंबर वन इज your Aeon, right? So that's the most talked about resource out there, right? The next which is used quite often is Smithsonian, right? So यहाँ पे I'll just help you guys out with one small little insight, one small little help, because if I look at it, reading is one of those things which I am most passionate about, right? So एक तो हम चीज़ करते हैं कि people who were there in the course last year as well, right? So I generally post an article on the batch groups on a daily basis. Reading के लिए I select an article और वो तो हम करते ही हैं, ठीक है? There are a few sources that you guys should use, right? And for reading. And उनमें से जो मेरा पर्सनल फेवरेट है, राइट, इज फॉर इन टर्म्स ऑफ रीडिंग बिजनेस एंड इकोनॉमी एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, राइट? सो दिस इज माय पर्सनल फेवरेट राइट नाउ, स्पेशली पब्लिकेशन इन इंडिया दैट आई लव टू रीड द मोस्ट is Live Mint, right? I find it to be probably one of the best newspapers to read in India at this particular moment, especially when you are starting out with something, ठीक है? एक और चीज़ होती है जब आप पढ़ना बस शुरू करते हैं, ठीक है, जब आपने पढ़ाई बस शुरू करी होती है, that you don't want to read the most boring thing in the world, right? अब Aeon essays, right? Aeon is a website, बहुत easily accessible है, you'll be able to get them. Aeon में, how many of you, at times, those of you who are just starting out your prep, you felt like deeply frustrated reading the Aeon? कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं क्या? You've read the Aeon and you are like deeply frustrated by it, and like इतना मुश्किल क्यों है भाई? क्या ही ऐसा पढ़ा रहे हैं? क्यों कर रहे हैं ये? So वहाँ पे to get started with, I have a few suggestions for you guys where you can get started with it, right? Get started with your reading, right? one thing that you can do is there is unfortunately abhi ke liye the way the world is working and the way the Aditya, coming to the most basic source of reading as well, right? The way the things are, right? More and more of these news websites are putting their articles behind a paywall, right? So जो access कर सकते हैं, right? There are a few that you can access. So for example, for LiveMint, you can probably subscribe to its newsletter, get a few articles free through the newsletter, right? And on the Times of India website, in the blog section, there are some very good articles, right? The one particular author that you could start with, a couple of authors who write in a very sarcastic way but entertaining manner, right? Jug Suraiya and Bachchi Kadkadiya, right? Jug Suraiya is pretty easy to read, right? So he's pretty funny as well. So those of you who are not in the habit of reading, right, the first thing that you guys should be doing is you should be reading these articles, which are relatively small, right, relatively entertaining. You'll find a few on Times of India, right? In fact, there are some very good articles which are completely free to access on New Indian Express, not Indian Express, but New Indian Express, right? Telegraph India, right? A few articles on Guardian, but you might find them a little difficult if you're getting started with your reading, right? So if I was you, right, and if I was just starting out my reading, right, probably I'll refer to the Times of India blog section, a few articles on Telegraph India and New Indian Express. That is where I'll get started with, right? And you'll find more than enough free articles to read, articles which are not behind a paywall on these websites. So that's where you get started with. LiveMint, you can, if you really want to read it, I think you can buy it off the stands as well every now and then, right? Don't have to do it, don't have to read it on a daily basis, a couple of days a week, right? Business and economy, it makes a lot of sense to read about it on a regular basis, right? And for the simple reason that it kind of keeps you up to date with what is happening in the business world. So one of my reasons for recommending LiveMint to you guys, right? Remember, this is just from the perspective of you guys learning as much about the world as possible. हिंदू यार बहुत ही अच्छा सोर्स है, राइट, पढ़ने का. बट हिंदू के साथ दिक्कत क्या है? Especially the opinion articles on the Hindu, in the Hindu. What is the problem with those? I'm not saying Hindu is not good, right? Hindu is great, right? So that's out of that discussion is not happening. But those are, if you look at the Hindu, those are very, at times, very dense, factually relevant content, right? A lot of factual content, very dense content, right? I would rather, as a beginner who's starting out, right, I would recommend you to read sources where content is easier to consume, to get started with, right? Leftist है, right wing है, center है, फर्क नहीं पड़ता अपने को, ठीक है? कैट प्रेप में अपने विंग्स भूल जाओ, पॉलिटिक्स लेफ्ट राइट सेंटर फर्क नहीं पड़ता, ठीक है? The thing that we want to look at VARC is how comfortable are you reading with, how comfortable are you with reading, and whether you are able to have that sitting or not, right? At times, what is our biggest challenge with respect to reading यार? बॉटम लाइन ये नहीं है कि तुम पढ़ना नहीं चाहते, ठीक है? ये तो मानोगे ना, ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कोई कि बोलेगा मैं पढ़ना ही नहीं चाहता, ठीक है? Psych is their sister publication. It deals with articles more to do with the mind and psychology, right? So they've taken out a sister publication, Psych. देखो, हम लोग सारे लोग पढ़ना चाहते हैं, ठीक है? अब ये मतलब इसमें यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द सरकाज़म एज वेल. हम पढ़ना चाहते तो हैं पर हम पढ़ नहीं पा रहे हैं. ऑल ऑफ अस वांट टू स्टडी बट वी डोंट हैव द सिटिंग फॉर इट. कैन आई एग्री? दैट्स लाइक द वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम्स यार. ये थोड़ी कि हम वी डोंट वांट टू रीड. वी वांट टू रीड बट वी वांट टू रीड फ्रॉम टुमारो, नॉट टुडे. So that is what generally happens, right? The solution for that is reading content that we are that is slightly easier, right? And अनीशा डिस्ट्रैक्शन का तो मुझे लगता है आज के टाइम में एक ही सोल्यूशन है, फोन तोड़ना पड़ेगा या कहीं फेंकना पड़ेगा, मतलब और कोई सोल्यूशन है नहीं डिस्ट्रैक्शन का, ठीक है? एक छोटा सा एक और छोटी सी चीज़ है, तुम रीडिंग को कर सकते हो. यू कैन गेट स्टार्टेड विद द एरियाज दैट यू लाइक टू रीड, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, और इसमें से इफ एनी वन ऑफ यू कैन डू दिस, आई ऑब्वियसली कांट डू दिस, अगर तुम लोग एनी वन ऑफ यू कैन डू अ क्विक वेब सर्च एंड पोस्ट द लिंक इन you can post the link, quickly search करके, right? And will be a great help, ठीक है? एक रंजना, आई एम रियली सॉरी यार, मैंने क्लास बोरिंग कर दी, तो मैं तो दुखी काफ़ी हो गया. अभी कमेंट का जितना मैं जल्दी कर पा रहा हूँ उतना तो मैं कर पा रहा हूँ यार. सो गार्डियन पे अगर कोई एक आर्टिकल था, इट was published yesterday itself or today itself, right? And I read it and I really found it, manga is good to read here if you can, right? So Guardian pe there was this article on Novak Djokovic, and so there's this controversy that he faked an injury, right? And in his yesterday's match against Alcaraz, right? So agar if you guys can search for that article, it's an opinion article on Guardian. Just search Djokovic and opinion article and the Guardian, right? So there might be someone who might be able to find that article, right? So वो वाला आर्टिकल अगर ढूंढ के यहाँ पे शेयर कर सकते हो लिंक्स comments में, so that will be a great help, right? I found that article to be really, really interesting to read, right? The words were very good, right? And manga पढ़ सकता है भाई, बढ़िया चीज़ है, entertaining है. I've never really gotten the hook of, I've never really gotten hooked to it, right? हर्ष, पिछले साल का पेपर सिर्फ इसलिए कि अपना बेसलाइन एस्टैब्लिश करने के लिए कि तुम कहाँ पे हो, समझ आएगा क्या करने की ज़रूरत है. पहले ये चीज़ समझ लो क्या करने की ज़रूरत है, गेट्स ईजियर, राइट? आई डोंट रिमेंबर द टाइटल श्रेया ऑफ दैट आर्टिकल. अगर गूगल पे जस्ट क्विकली सर्च गार्डियन प्लस नोवाक जोकोविच प्लस ओपिनियन आर्टिकल, मतलब इट्स पब्लिश टुडे इटसेल्फ. इट्स अ गुड आर्टिकल टू रीड, राइट? So you'll be able to find that article. Just post the link, right? Otherwise, I'll at the end of the session I'll post it as a comment under this video. I'll do that, right? So वहाँ से वो article पढ़ लेना. I'll just post it as a comment, right? So इस तरीके की interesting चीज़ें ढूंढो, ठीक है? वो चीज़ें ढूंढो जो तुम्हें पढ़ने में मज़ा आए, ठीक है? जो तुम्हें जिससे धीरे धीरे कंसंट्रेशन बने, सिटिंग बने, ठीक है? थोड़ा सा यार डिजिटल डिसिप्लिन तो लेके आना पड़ेगा, थोड़ा सा डिजिटल मिनिमलिज्म तुम्हें फॉलो करना पड़ेगा, राइट? काफ़ी काउंटर इंट्यूटिव है, राइट? और काफ़ी काउंटर इंट्यूटिव एडवाइस है. अगर तुम इसमें अगर लॉजिकल फ्लॉ मेरी एडवाइस में ढूंढ सकते हो तो ये तुम्हारा पहला स्टेप होगा VARC को एस करने का. मैं तुम्हें कह रहा हूं, अगर इसमें लॉजिकल फ्लॉ अगर इस आर्ग्यूमेंट में तुमने ढूंढ लिया तो हम यहां से आर्ग्यूमेंटेशन भी सीखते हैं, क्योंकि अगले 2 पॉइंटर्स में आर्ग्यूमेंट्स की बात होगी, राइट? वी विल टॉक अबाउट इट. दैट आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट यू विल हैव टू अडॉप्ट अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ डिजिटल मिनिमलिज्म, राइट? सो व्हाट इज द फ्लॉ इन दैट आर्ग्यूमेंट? Because for developing that habit of reading, you will have to get away from Bhavya, that's in the next slide, vocabulary, right? नॉवल पढ़ सकते हो यार अगर टाइम है तो. स्टार्ट विद शॉर्ट नॉवेल्स. start with books such as Animal Farm, right? मेरी आर्ग्यूमेंट में फ्लॉ था कि मैं तुम्हें एक डिजिटल क्लास के थ्रू बोल रहा हूं जो तुम डिजिटल मीडियम से ही अटेंड कर रहे हो कि डिजिटल मिनिमलिज्म अडॉप्ट करो टू स्पेंड टाइम फॉर रीडिंग. So I'm actually also saying it through a digital medium कि digital content कम consume करो. भव्य reading के लिए small targets, right? Again, I think one more thing you guys can do, like we had in the previous slide, right? You can start with bare minimum of 1 article a day, right? So for example, in the iQUANTA course group, I make sure I share 1 article every day for reading, right? So that's something that I do, right? I pretty much did that all through last year, right? And regularly kept sharing articles. So something that we do, just 1 article a day, so you get a little push for reading, right? So that's something that you guys should be doing, right? नहीं यार मैं तो यार एक ही कर रहा हूँ माई क्यूज. ठीक है, एऑन क्विक आंसर टू एऑन वाला क्वेश्चन, राइट? थैंक्स गौरव. वो भी करेंगे यार, उसका भी सोल्यूशन आएगा. सूरज, टेक्निकल वोकैब का भी बहुत बढ़िया सोल्यूशन आने वाला बहुत ही जल्द, राइट? तो ये हमारा अगला part tha. Let's move on to the next slide now, right? So reading, all the doubts that you have, right, at the end of the session I'm going to I'll take your questions as well, so I'm not going to run away anywhere. Especially with my weight, it is difficult to run anyways, right? So I'll take your doubts, right? But let's head over to the next slide, right? Next slide is that I am going to give you we're just left with a small amount of content, Charu, right? And in the next 10 or 15 minutes, you guys will have a quick set of questions to solve as well, right? The next part is that you guys need to develop your vocabulary, right? Now, you guys would be thinking that this is like a really easy thing to say, right? But the fact is, there's a small twist here. What is it that I want you guys to do, and how is it that I want you to go about it on a daily basis, right? Obviously, the first, there is one book that is universally known for vocabulary development, right? All of you would have heard about it. Most of you would have had it, would have bought it as well, or you might have a copy of it, right? Which is that book, Word Power Made Easy, right? So all of us would have heard about it, right? If you ask me, how would I develop vocabulary, or which is the most effective way for learning new words? The most effective way for learning new words is that whichever words that you find while reading on a daily basis or while solving the RC, right? So while reading or while solving the RC, if you find 5 to 7 words on a regular basis, right, you will be easily able to find these 5 to 7 words, right? So try to identify those words, right? You should ideally have a notebook, or you should make flashcards, right? I know there are some apps now to take notes. You can use those as well. Personally speaking, I would genuinely recommend you guys to do this exercise with a pen and paper, right? And because when you write down words, and ideally what you should do is you should put the word on the front of the card, or you can even have a small pocket diary for it and the meaning on the back side, so that you can revise it, right, later. So that's how you should make your own set of flashcards, your own word list, which is based on the words that you discover. And you should generally note down 5 to 7 words a day, not more than that. You don't require anything more than that, right? If you do that on a regular basis, again, you'll have, like, by the time you take CAT, you would have learned like 1500, 2000 words, right? And that would be, those would be the words that you've discovered. So those would be relevant to your case. So that's something that you guys can do and you guys should do, right? So that is something that you guys can do. But there is one small little twist here, right? Vocabulary we can go on, right? The different ways of learning words, you use word roots, clusters, themes, blah blah blah. So I'm skipping all of that for now. We'll probably cover that in a separate session where we just talk about vocabulary, right? But there is one crucial thing, right, that I want you guys to do from this point onwards, and I'll give you a practical example of it in the next slide, what I mean by it, right? I don't want you just to focus on words itself, but I also want you guys to focus on terms, right? So for example, can I give you guys a little bit of homework? Just a small amount of homework. Just a small amount of homework. Am I allowed to do that? छोटा सा, इतू सा, थोड़ा सा काम करोगे मेरे लिए? So what do I mean by these terms, right? What do I mean by these terms that I am referring to, right? So you guys will go and search for these 2-3 terms that I am writing on the board, right? So I'll just erase everything, right? Term number 1, right? This is neo. This is not an H. This is an N. So my handwriting is, this is the best handwriting that I can come up with. So term number 1 that you guys will go and read is neoliberalism. This is neo, N-E-O, neo as in from matrix, neoliberalism, right? The second term that you will go and search is impressionism, right? So the first term is neoliberalism. You will search neoliberalism in economics. The second term that you will search is impressionism in art, right? So this you will search in art, right? And the third term is populism. So it's a derivative from the word popular. This is populism. Populism in politics, right? So 3 terms, right? Neoliberalism, impressionism and populism, right? So these are 3 terms that you guys will go and search. I will not explain their meanings, right? So when you go and यार मेरे को लगता है सागर ये पढ़ने की जो भी कोशिश करेगा वो मुश्किल ही है. मतलब एट टाइम्स मुझे अपनी खुद की राइटिंग नहीं समझ आती मैंने क्या लिखा है, राइट? सो वो एक डेफिनेट फ्लॉ है, बट फैक्ट इज नाउ इट इज टू लेट टू डू रियली एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. सो ये 3 टर्म्स हैं, राइट? सो नियोलिबरलिज्म, राइट, इम्प्रेशनिज्म और पॉपुलिज्म, राइट? सो ये 3 टर्म्स को तुमने रिसर्च करके पढ़ना है इनके ऊपर, ठीक है? अगर खुद से पढ़ना है खुद से पढ़ लो, राइट? नहीं तो चैट जीपीटी बाबा को बता दो, एक्सप्लेन कर देंगे तुम्हें, राइट? So when you go and read these terms, right, you will realize the difference between a vocabulary word and what is a term in vocabulary. These are terms, right, that you have, Shivali. When you go and you'll read these terms, you will realize that these are not just simple words. इनके अंदर एक wealth of knowledge contained है, right? So इनके अंदर एक wealth of knowledge contained है, right? इकोनॉमिक्स, पलक इकोनॉमिक्स में, नियोलिबरलिज्म इकोनॉमिक्स में, इम्प्रेशनिज्म आर्ट में और पॉपुलिज्म पॉलिटिक्स में, राइट? सो एक बारी जाके इनको पढ़ना, ठीक है? और तब तुम्हें रियलाइज होगा कि यार वोकैबुलरी एक चीज होती है, वोकैबुलरी वर्ड्स का मीनिंग पढ़ना एक चीज होती है, राइट, और टर्म्स पढ़ना एक अलग चीज होती है। टर्म्स आपको दुनिया की नॉलेज देते हैं, बताते हैं दुनिया में चल क्या रहा है। वर्ड्स तो एक सिंगल मीनिंग है यार, किसी भी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में एक छोटा सा मीनिंग है, राइट। सो टर्म्स टेक इट वेल बियॉन्ड वोकैबुलरी, राइट, दे हैव अ मच डीपर मीनिंग। शिवाली कुछ नहीं यार, गूगल पे डाल, राइट, विकीपीडिया पे पढ़ लो, राइट। एक और छोटा सा हैक तुम्हें बता सकता हूँ, वैसे हैक अब तो खैर इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं है, पहले पुराने ज़माने में, आज से 2-3 साल पहले इसकी काफ़ी ज़रूरत होती थी। देर इज़ अ थिंग बाय द नेम ऑफ सिंपल विकीपीडिया, राइट। विकीपीडिया का ही एक वर्जन है सिंपल विकीपीडिया, राइट। पर अब खैर वो सब किल हो गया, क्योंकि जब से चैट जीपीटी आया है तो इन सब चीज़ों की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है, राइट। सो एब्सोल्युटली वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग तो एक बहुत बड़ी टर्म है भाई। वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग पे एक ये है विस्पर्ड ट्रुथ्स, नाम बहुत बढ़िया है भाई तेरा, जो भी है तू, ठीक है। तो विस्पर्ड ट्रुथ्स भाई, वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग पे 2 जगह पे आर्टिकल पढ़ना, ठीक है। वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग प्लस द एऑन, वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग प्लस साइकोलॉजी टुडे, एक बारी डाल के देखो, राइट। सो बहुत अच्छे आर्टिकल्स मिलेंगे वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग पे, ठीक है। नियोलिबरलिज्म आर्यन एब्सोल्युटली पॉलिटिक्स में भी है, इकोनॉमिक्स में भी है, दोनों जगह है, ठीक है। तो ये एक बार जब तुम एक्सप्लोर करोगे तब तुम्हें पता चलेगा पावर ऑफ टर्म्स, राइट। सो हमें रेलिवेंट वोकैबुलरी बनानी है, हमें सिर्फ वर्ड्स नहीं सीखने, हमें टर्म्स भी सीखनी है। वी नीड टू लर्न अ फ्यू टर्म्स so that we have a deeper understanding of the world, right? And in fact, I have 2 examples here for you. How many of you have heard hegemony? चलो whispered truths बहन भाई की जगह। मेरी फेवरेट बुक यार एक हो ही नहीं सकती। आई हैव अ 2000 बुक लाइब्रेरी at my place, and I generally buy physical copies. I don't like reading on a Kindle. I have one, but I don't really use it. I buy paperbacks and hard copies. So how many of you have heard hegemony, right? So hegemony is a word where basically it's domination of one group over others, right? But hegemony has deeper implications, right? What do I mean by these deeper implications of hegemony? For example, there is economic hegemony. What is economic hegemony? For example, the US has economic might over others, right? So by virtue of manipulating the dollar, they are able to control, right, the world economic system. You've got cultural hegemony, right? So Hollywood's hegemony, right? Then you've got political hegemony, declining powers of the Western world. So now in the modern day world, a political hegemony which has emerged in the last, say, 20 years is China. China has become a hegemony of sorts, right, through its Silk and Belt Road initiative. It's trying to dominate the world. So this simple word, which was just a word which just meant dominance of one group over the others, it has cultural, economics, political aspects, right? And you will find it used in different kinds of passages in different newspapers, right? So when you read next and when you explore this word next, think about its deeper implications, right? So we don't have to just stop at word meanings. We also have to look at the deeper implications. One more such word, right? Has anyone a philosophy student here? Any one of you from a philosophy background? You had philosophy as a subject in undergrad? Anyone? Anyone who's had philosophy as a subject? I don't teach offline, yaar. Rajendra was like, long time back. फिलॉसफी का तो यार स्कोप तो खैर anyone who likes to read philosophy as a subject, right? So outside of verbal philosophy is my favorite subject, right? So the two subjects that I actually love are philosophy and economics. So those are the two subjects that I like the most outside of verbal. So there is this concept of determinism, right? Has any one of you heard it in philosophy, right? So can I give you one more homework for today? One small little homework. We've had 3 terms, right? Can I give you one debate to explore? So within this subject, explore free will versus determinism, right? So explore free will versus determinism. And once you've explored these two things, just in fact type in free will versus determinism. Just decide what is it that you believe in, right? Ask yourself that अगर 2 ग्रुप्स होते दुनिया में, तुम डिसाइड करना होता तुम फ्री विल में बिलीव करते हो या डिटर्मिनिज्म में, तो किस में बिलीव करते? ठीक है, डिटर्मिनिज्म एक ऐसी थ्योरी है जो बोलता है कि जो भी दुनिया में चीजें हो रही है ना, वो इसलिए हो रही है क्योंकि उनका कोई प्रीवियस कॉज था. सो इफेक्टिवली आप कहते हो कि दुनिया में सब कुछ डिटर्मिन्ड था, फ्री नहीं हो रहा, कुछ फ्रीली कुछ नहीं हो रहा, राइट? क्योंकि पहले ऐसी चीजें हुई थी इसीलिए फ्यूचर में ऐसे हो रहा है. तो अगर सब कुछ डिटर्मिन्ड हो, राइट, अगर सब कुछ डिटर्मिन्ड हो तो चेंज करना चीजें काफी मुश्किल हो जाएगा, राइट? बट ये अगेन एक डीपर डिबेट है, ठीक है? तो इसके अंदर यू हैव इकोनॉमिक डिटर्मिनिज्म, बायोलॉजिकल डिटर्मिनिज्म. इकोनॉमिक डिटर्मिनिज्म बोलता है कि इकोनॉमिक्स में जो चीजें हुई, राइट? सो इकोनॉमिक्स में जो चीजें हुई हैं, राइट, उनके जो आपकी करंट इकोनॉमिक्स है, राइट, वो डिटरमिन करती है दुनिया का फ्यूचर, राइट? सारा कुछ इकोनॉमिक्स डिटरमिन करती है. कैपिटलिज्म डिटरमिन कर रहा है फ्यूचर पॉलिसी, डिसीजंस, पॉलिटिक्स एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, वो इकोनॉमिक डिटर्मिनिज्म बोलता है. बायोलॉजिकल डिटर्मिनिज्म बोलता है because of your birth, right? So everything in your life is essentially decided on the basis of your genetics, right? So आपके strengths, characteristics, आप किस टाइप के इंसान हो, वो किस चीज से डिटरमिन्ड है? बायोलॉजिकली डिटरमिन्ड है. सो आप जो मर्जी कर लो, आप ऐसे ही रहने वाले हो, बिकॉज इट इज डिटरमिन्ड फॉर यू, आपके जीन्स ऐसे हैं, ठीक है? सिमिलरली टेक्नोलॉजिकल डिटर्मिनिज्म इकोनॉमिक डिटर्मिनिज्म का ही भाई है, ठीक है? ये बोलता है टेक्नोलॉजी डिसाइड करती है दुनिया का फ्यूचर कैसे होगा, डिटरमिन करती है, सारी पॉलिसी, सारे डिसीजंस उसके हिसाब से लिए जाते हैं, ठीक है? तो ये अलग अलग वेज है इन विच द वर्ड डिटर्मिनिज्म कैन बी यूज्ड. तो ये 2 वर्ड्स थे, ठीक है? तो पहले तुम्हारे को 3 टर्म्स थी, फिर 2 वर्ड्स थे, हेजीमनी और डिटर्मिनिज्म. डिटर्मिनिज्म बोलता है दुनिया में सब कुछ डिटर्मिन्ड है, ठीक है? ये आइडिया काफी अनईजी लगता है सुनने में, बट जब आप पहली बार सुनते हो, बट जैसे जैसे आप इसके बारे में सोचते हो, आपको इस पे काफी कुछ सोचना पड़ता है यार, कि यार ये सच है कि नहीं है, ठीक है? तो ये तुम्हारा होमवर्क है, इन चीजों पे तुम थोड़ा डीपली सोचोगे, ठीक है? तो यहां पे तुम्हें थोड़ा सोचने की जरूरत है. जब, ठीक है, जब तुम ऐसे धीरे धीरे अपनी नॉलेज इंक्रीज करनी सोचते हो, ठीक है? अबे अब इस चीज का तो यार मेरे पास जवाब नहीं है कि ये बहुत ज्यादा काम है, ठीक है? काम तो करना ही पड़ेगा, ठीक है? मैं ये नहीं कह रहा बहुत सारे वर्ड्स पढ़ो, बहुत सारी टर्म्स पढ़ो, ठीक है? पर यू विल एनकाउंटर दीज वर्ड्स और टर्म्स व्हाइल यू रीड, राइट? सो व्हेनेवर यू डू, प्लीज मेक श्योर यू नोट देम डाउन, ठीक है? तो इनको प्रेफरेंस दो, राइट? सो थोड़ा थोड़ा धीरे धीरे इनको प्रेफरेंस दो. फ्री विल का मतलब अथर्व बहुत ही सिंपल होता है कि आप कंप्लीटली फ्री हो कुछ भी डिसाइड करने के लिए, आप एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर से नहीं डिक्टेट होते हो. यू कैन डू एनीथिंग फ्रीली विदाउट डिपेंडिंग अपॉन एनीवन एल्स, राइट? सो दैट इज समथिंग दैट यू गाइज कैन डू इफ यू हैव कंप्लीट फ्री विल. सो इसमें काफ़ी डिबेट रहता है कि दुनिया में फ्री विल है कि सब कुछ डिटर्मिन्ड है. सो ये एक अगला काम है जो तुम लोग करोगे, ठीक है. लास्ट आज का एक वे या एक अप्रोच, ठीक है, जो पढ़ाई में तुम लोगों को इम्प्लीमेंट करनी है. थिंग्स दैट आई वांट यू गाइस टू इम्प्लीमेंट इन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू योर रीडिंग, राइट. एक छोटी सी चीज़ है, एक छोटा सा लेंस है विच आई वांट यू गाइस टू इंट्रोड्यूस while you are consuming content. So जब तुम content consume कर रहे हो तो if you can introduce this lens while reading, it will greatly improve your understanding of that content. So what is that? That's basically you form opinions, right? You look into the author's perspective, right? So whenever you read with a certain intention. What is that intention while reading, right? And you guys can tell me as well whether when you read content, because generally what happens is when we read content, we read it very passively. ठीक है, हम फटाफट कंटेंट हम बोलते हैं अच्छा जल्दी जल्दी खत्म होए, इस आर्टिकल से हम बाहर निकले. ठीक है, अब उस आर्टिकल से बाहर निकलने की बजाय, even though it might take you like say while reading an article might take you 3 or 4 minutes extra, especially when you get started with it, ask yourself, right, इस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक पे ऑथर का स्टैंड क्या था, राइट, पॉजिटिव था, न्यूट्रल था, नेगेटिव था. ऑथर बोलना क्या चाह रहा है यार, बहस करना चाह रहा है क्या, आर्ग्यू कर रहा है क्या किसी पोजीशन के लिए, राइट. देन ट्राई टू स्पॉट अगर उसका कोई एक पर्टिकुलर स्टैंड्स है, कोई एक पर्टिकुलर टोन है, क्या वो किसी की प्रेज कर रहा है, क्या वो किसी के बारे में क्रिटिकल हो रहा है, क्रिटिसिज्म कर रहा है, क्या रहा है, वो एनालाइज कर रहा है, प्रॉब्लम्स के सॉल्यूशंस दे रहा है. ये सारे अलग अलग टाइप के आर्टिकल्स हैं. ठीक है, सो इफ वी कैन स्टार्ट अंडरस्टैंडिंग द टाइप ऑफ कंटेंट दैट वी आर रीडिंग, आवर कॉम्प्रिहेंशन improves, right? So there is an element of improvement that takes place, right? So while doing that, right, so you practice with editorials on a daily basis, right, where you try to identify on a daily basis कि ऑथर का पर्पस क्या था इस पर्टिकुलर केस में, ऑथर ये आर्टिकल क्यों लिख रहा है. जनरली while reading, एक छोटा सा, I have one small question for you guys. I hope you guys have read a certain few articles. आज तक कुछ तो पढ़े होंगे, editorials, articles, you would be consuming some kind of content. क्या at the end of the article, have you ever asked yourself this question, do I agree or do I disagree with the author? Have you ever asked yourself this question while reading articles? Have you ever agreed or disagreed with the author? So now as a regular practice, great, that's a great response guys, great Bhavya, Shreya. So now as a regular practice, can you guys, right, just tell yourself, let's identify here, what is he trying to say? Do I agree with it? Do I disagree with it? What is his primary argument? ठीक है, अब एंड ये भी एक बहुत जेन्युइन चीज है भव्या की, कि जब हम पढ़ते हैं, ठीक है, ये एक बायस है, एक ह्यूमन बायस है, इफ यू गाइज नो, राइट. whenever we read, especially when we read something written in a newspaper, right, inherently we feel यार इसमें ये न्यूज़पेपर में छपा है तो this guy must be knowledgeable and hence by extension I should believe in him, right, कि by virtue of it being published, right, in a leading newspaper we start believing in it. Agreed? हम genuinely ऐसा करते हैं यार. तो आप अगले बंदे को वो पोजीशन ऑफ पावर अथॉरिटी पहले ही मेंटली दे देते हो कि न्यूज़पेपर में छपा है तो सही होगा. सो ये एक छोटी सी चीज़ है, राइट, दैट वी स्टार्ट डूइंग फ्रॉम नाउ ऑनवर्ड्स, राइट. यू गाइज विल, व्हाई डू यू वांट टू बी लाइक शशि थरूर यार? ट्राई टू कम्युनिकेट इफेक्टिवली. वर्ड्स इम्पॉसिबल वोकैबुलरी भी क्या करनी है ना. सो फ्रॉम नाउ ऑनवर्ड्स while reading you guys should have an opinion on the author, right? And what is he saying? Do you agree with it or not, right? Next, try to identify the primary things that he's saying in that particular article, right? And the primary arguments he's making, and also try to spot the kind of tone he has adopted. Is he persuading you? Is he positive? Is he negative? Is he critical? What is it that he's doing? So once you start making these little observations, right? And I know this would be easier said than done, right? मैं खुद इसको ऑनेस्टली एक्सेप्ट कर रहा हूँ, ये बोलना बहुत आसान है, ठीक है? बट अगर अपने आप को ये क्वेश्चंस, इफ यू कैन टेल, if you can just tell yourself, if you can just give yourself this direction, that while reading this article, I will identify what is it that he's saying, whether I agree with it or not, what are the primary 3-4 things he said, and what is the way that he has said it in, right? So if I can do that, if I can do these 3-4 things, you will realize that your retention of the article improves. You will remember a lot more of that content, right? Atharv, Aeon say, I will not say it's a great resource, but not something that you should get started with, right? How will tone words help? Siddhant, पहले तो CAT 24 में ही the tone question made a comeback, right? We had the tone question this year, so question ही वापस आ गया, ठीक है? And more than the question type, right? ज़्यादा crucial चीज़ क्या है यार? टोन समझने से तुम्हें ये समझ आता है कि वो आर्टिकल लिखा कैसे गया, ठीक है? हम जिस स्टेज पे है ना अभी, हम अभी जनवरी में बैठे हैं यार, हमारा इंटेंट होना चाहिए कि हमें समझ आना चाहिए कि वो ऑथर लिख कैसे रहा है. अगर एक बार वो समझ आने लग गया ना, तो तुम्हारा रिटेंशन इंप्रूव हो जाएगा, अंडरस्टैंडिंग इंप्रूव हो जाएगा. ये स्टेप्स टू कॉम्प्रिहेंशन है, राइट? स्टेप 1 इज टू रिटेन मोर ऑफ दैट कंटेंट यार. मतलब पहला तो मैं तो बहुत सिंपल लैंग्वेज में बोलूँ, सम ऑफ यू विल बी एबल टू कनेक्ट before the article ends, right? And I'm not talking about essays, just articles, right? Say 700-800 word article. Before that article ends, our mind should not switch off, right? अगर आपका सिंपल चेक है यार, अगर रीडिंग करते हुए अगर तुम्हें फोन उठाने का मन कर रहा है और देख रहा है कि यार बीच में ही रील देख लूँ, तो मतलब तुम्हारा इंटरेस्ट नहीं बन रहा है. दैट्स नॉट होल्डिंग योर अटेंशन. सो उस केस में अपने आप को ये क्वेश्चंस दो, right? That ask yourself these: what is the purpose, what is the tone, how is it that he is communicating? That will just help you improve your focus, and that will help you retain more content, right? So try to think about the author's perspective. How has he written it, and why is he saying these things, right? So that will help you improve your reading skills. Absolutely, Palak. If you read, your spoken English improves automatically. Subconscious level pe you get better. That happens automatically. So guys, these were 5 things that I wanted to talk to you guys about today, है ना? तो 5 चीज़ें जो हमने कवर करनी थी, राइट? 5 छोटे छोटे हैक्स, राइट? 5 छोटी छोटी चीज़ें. We'll start in the reverse order. ऑथर का पर्सपेक्टिव सोचोगे, ठीक है? वोकैबुलरी पे काम करोगे, बट टर्म्स पे भी काम करोगे. मैंने थोड़ा सा होमवर्क भी दिया तुम्हें, ठीक है? सो वो भी करोगे, ठीक है? डाइवर्स रीडिंग करोगे. लाइव में न्यू इंडियन एक्सप्रेस, टेलीग्राफ इंडिया, राइट, टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया के ब्लॉग्स, वहाँ से शुरू कर सकते हो. शुरू करने के लिए वो एक अच्छा स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट है. 4th, मेक श्योर यू पुट अप दो स्टिकी नोट्स. 1 RC a डे. इतना छोटे से टारगेट से शुरू करो. जिसका जो अभी ऑलरेडी 1 पे है तो वो 2 RCs a डे कर ले, ठीक है? तो वो करोगे. और नेक्स्ट स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट तुम्हारा 2 कोई भी सेक्शन भी है RC के, ठीक है? पिछले 2 साल में से कोई भी 2 सेक्शन एक बार सॉल्व करके देख लो. प्रेशर नहीं है स्कोर का, ठीक है? सॉल्व करके देखना है. And then you will realize that whatever I am saying makes a lot more sense. कि हमें ये चीज़ें करनी पड़ेंगी अगर हमें इस टाइप का VARC सेक्शन में स्कोर अच्छा लाना है. If you want to score well. So ये 5 चीज़ें हैं, ठीक है? ये 5 चीज़ें तुम करोगे, ठीक है? So these are the things that you guys should get started with. एब्सोल्युटली यार, बिगिनर हो जो मर्जी हो, RC तो करना ही चाहिए, शुरू से ही करना चाहिए, राइट? नहीं यार भव्य, बिल्कुल भी मिस्टेक नहीं है. अब पढ़ ले हिंदू. इट्स अ ग्रेट रिसोर्स. ठीक है, बस मुझे इतना ही लगता है हिंदू के साथ कभी कभी हम बोर हो जाते हैं, तो कभी डाइवर्सिफाई कर लियो। ज़रूरी नहीं है कि हमें सिर्फ हिंदू ही करना है ना, इंटरेस्ट बना रहना चाहिए। क्लासेस कब शुरू हो रही हैं, बुक्स कब मिलेंगी? द iQUANTA टीम विल हेल्प यू, राइट यार। सोशल मीडिया पे लिमिट करना, अगर तुम्हें भी थोड़ा सोल्यूशन मिल जाए तो मुझे भी बता देना यार, मैं भी रील्स देखने बंद कर दूंगा। तो एक ही लगता है मेरे को आज के टाइम में, तो ओपीएम फॉर द मासेस रील्स ही है जो टाइम ले रही है। मैंने तो देखा फ्लाइट मोड वर्क्स बेस्ट, फोन का फ्लाइट मोड लगा दो। यार इंप्रूवमेंट धीरे धीरे होता जाएगा, ठीक है, रेगुलरली अगर एफर्ट डालोगे तो यू गाइस विल इंप्रूव, राइट। So this last slide that we have, Bhava, is actually, this is what is critical thinking is, right? So this is exactly what critical thinking is. So once you begin to do this, you begin to think critically, right? So great guys, great to have all of you guys here today, right? Absolutely, Aaron. Right? Great to have. Great to have all of you guys here today. I hope you guys had a good time in the session. I hope you guys learned a few things. I hope the fat bald man made a little bit of sense, right? And broken heart, पहले तो इतना अपने दिल को संभालो, right? And next is start practicing it, start recording yourself. Read out one article, record it as a voice note and listen to it. Start speaking it out from, like that's something that you can do, right? Shravani, for word power made easy, the one thing that I've always found has worked, right? So there is this particular section, word power made easy, you start consuming one session a day. There is this set of sessions which talks about professions, and I think it starts from session number 7 and goes up till 16, 17. I don't remember it exactly, right? So that particular portion of word power made easy is super boring, right? And that is something, that is the place where maximum that is the place where a maximum number of people, they quit the book, right? Word power made easy. So there it makes sense for you guys, right, to just go through those sessions very quickly and not spend a lot of that time. So you will be able to complete word power made easy. So word power made easy, those sessions about professions are very boring. So that's where most people quit. So if you can skip those or complete those quickly, you should be so that's something that you can consume. Great, Suraj. So, oh, you just thought I was in a photograph. I don't exist for real. Yeah, I keep posting them in the Cat 25 group, right? So I post, I think, on a daily basis. Generally, the articles I miss at time, I'm generally try to make sure at least 5 days a week. So I have the articles, I have a daily vocab post as well, where I post 5 words, right? So that's something that I do. I post them in the Cat 25 group, Devashish. Those are posted there. Great, guys. So great to have all of you here today. Thank you very much for joining in. See you guys next time. Good night for now. Yep, Aryan. We had to cover 5 things. So we've covered those 5 things. Thanks, guys. Good night.